welcome back to the channel. I'm Becky from RJF Makes, and you've joined me in, oops, my phone's just going off. You've joined me making the Keep It Together bag. We started it last week on part 1. We are taking it step by step each week, and we are going to be doing the bag gusset today and attaching part of the binding. When I say part, I'm only going to attach one side, and then I'm going to leave it to you guys to go ahead and do the other side. Right, so we've got some people joining in. They were having conversations as we were going along. Just letting you know we are live. So just hi everybody. There's loads of comments there now. Right, so basically we are live, and if you are watching this afterwards, please don't hesitate to comment in the comment below and say after or replay, and ask any questions about the pattern. Also say hi, what machine you're using, have you started making it. I know Joanne Fisher has actually just commented while we were talking in the chat, and basically talking about that she has cut out a fabric. She's halfway through the interfacing. There is a lot of interfacing, guys, I'm sorry. And you're not sure where the week's gone. Right, yeah. No, I don't either. I was saying to my husband last night, it's Thursday already. So if you are watching this back after the live, I apologise. I will be answering live questions, and I will be chatting to like a third person, but obviously the third person is the person that is on the chat. So we have Laura from Little Stitcher says, yay, bestie. So Laura from Little Stitcher supplied me this years ago, a month ago, years ago, I don't know. But I know she could possibly still have some in stock. It's a big panel, and I'm using some of the panel pieces from that panel to actually make this bag. I'm just waiting before I go any further, because I don't want to look down and not see the chat. I'm waiting for my admin to come in. So if you are one of these people that is a spammer or scanner or whatever, a hacker, and you start putting in mumble jumble, my princess, my admin will delete you. And yeah, so anybody that sees anything foreign in the chat, please flag princess when she pops in, and she will basically delete you. I love your fabric. Yeah, it's gorgeous fabric. So this was the one panel, and this is the other part. It's just me. I love animals. Now, if it was all koalas, yes. Hello, so I was making the cuppa. Me too, Princess. So Princess is going to be flagging up some information as we go along. Thanks, Princess. So basically the information that she'll be flagging up is how to join my group, because we have had a lot of people messaging me regarding how to join my Fred's Gang. Fred's Gang is a monthly subscription club. I won't go into much jargon. I'll do that at the end. She will also be popping up every so often a discount. So this week's discount is 15% off everything apart from subs, joining Fred's Gang, and gift cards. So it's 15% off. She will have the code. It's together15, and that ends a week today. I had to think what date we're on. A week today. So that ends a week today. And then obviously next week there'll be a new code. We are going to be doing codes whenever I go live on YouTube, just to get you in the spirit. Oh, the tiger. I know, the tiger's gorgeous. Now the whole panel is about like how the world is, and there's a big world. And there's a female on it holding the world. Yeah, it's beautiful. Can't remember what the panel's called, but I think it's called like yeah, Laura might be able to tell if Laura pops in. Right, okay, so last week we did the front and back. We completed the front and the back. Yeah, we completed the front and the back. We're going to go into making the bag gusset at the moment. I'm just going to say to you, in the pattern it says to make 2 single page in part 1. I'm personally only going to be making 1, so that is why I know I had someone message me. That is why I've only done the Velcro or hook and eye on the one side. But if you want to do both the single pages, you will need to put the hook and eye on this one as well, or the Velcro. When we come to part 2 in a few weeks time, which is part 2 pattern, yes, this is split up over 2 patterns because some people didn't want the second pattern in from the club, because this was originally the club pattern, which then I took to general release. They said they don't need the part 2, the innards, they just need the outer. So I decided to separate this pattern into 2. So when we do come to part 2, you can make 2 innards with the amount that is required. However, I'm only doing 1 because what I want to carry in this bag, I need a big space at the back to put all my art pads in. So I'm just going to be making the 1 innard. So when I come to do the base today, I'm only doing 1 set of Velcros, but I will tell you where to implement the second set of Velcro. Right, okay, so I'm just, disclaimer, my machine that I was using last week is now gone off to hospital, which is the service centre. So I'm using a very old machine, which the light is poor. I've got lighting on it at the moment, so you should be able to see what I'm sewing. Right, okay, so I'm going to go to the overhead camera. No, that one. Oh, bring back Michael. Right, okay, so we are taking off from this page here. This is where we left off last time. And this was page 13. We're going to start on page 13, but we're going to be working on the base. So if I just move this out the way. Yes, that's it, Laura. Planet, yeah. Have you got any left, Laura? Because I know some people will probably want to buy them. Right, so I'm going to work on the base. Now, I have attached all the foam to the right of the pieces that need foam. So I've got one of my bases here that I have basically interfaced on the wrong side of the fabric. Then I have attached the foam like I did last week. So if you want to learn how to attach the foam, you need to watch the first sew along, which was last week, which is in on my channel in the playlist. And then I have gone around zigzagging all the way around. So that is my base for the outer, and then my lining, I am using the same colour because it goes well with this fabric that I've used. So I have interfaced this, and I've used just woven interfacing. I've used a mixture of woven interfacing. Now when I say a mixture, some pieces will have black woven interfacing, some will have white. I'm a stickler for trying to use what's left over from other projects, and I'm going through my box at the moment of the interfacing. So at the moment I've got my white Fuse It, which I stock from www.rjfmakes.com, and obviously use your 15% discount if you want to Fuse It. I stock Moda Grunge as well. Right, so you'll need 4 pieces of hook and eye or Velcro, 4 panels left, yay. So if anybody wants the animal panels, you need to go to Little Stitcher Sews. Laura, I'm happy for you to put your website details up if you want to, and then that's where you can buy it from. She ships international as well. Right, okay, so you'll need 4 pieces of Velcro. That's both sides. That's the hook and the eye. So that's the hook and the eye, or the loop, depending on which manufacturer. But I'm only using 2. Now, the measurements that you need are on page 13 for that. Okay, so with these, we need the sticky tape, which is wash away tape. And which are we using? We are using the, taking the baseline in. Sorry, I can't remember if I'm using the soft or the hard pieces of Velcro. Just bear with me. The rough one. Right, okay, so we're using the hook. Keep the soft one to one side. That's going to come in handy for part 2. So that's the innards. Now, if you're not doing the inner pages, the full inner pages, the small inner pages, you can go ahead and eliminate and miss out this part completely. Right, okay, so I'm going to measure in 5/8. One, two, three, four, 5. You're going to get bear with me with my counting, unfortunately. Alright, so I'm going to draw a mark there, and then I'm going to measure down 1 inch. So what's the weather like in people's woods today? When I say woods, I mean your neck of the woods. And where are you actually based? It'd be nice to know and get you all chatting. Right, okay, so I've got my Velcro, and this is the hook side of things. I'm going to pop on the wrong side quilter's tape or wash away tape, depending on what you want to call it, on the back. I'm just going to get rid of that bit because it wasn't sticky. Right, so on my sewing machine, I've got a size 16 universal needle. It's only because we're going to go through some slightly bulky areas. Last week I had a size 14 needle. At the moment I've got my zipper foot on, which I'm going to take it off. I just realised I should have taken that off before the live started, because I was putting a zipper in a pair of jeans. Well, pair of dungers. I'm making myself a pair of dungers, another pair. Dry and breezy here. Oh, Oxfordshire. Yes, here is overcast, and it's getting my favourite weather where you can put your hoodies on. Right, okay, so I'm just going to peel off the backing off one of them at the moment, off the one hook. Right, so where you've got this marking here and here, you need this to marry up with the top and the side, and you're going to stick that down. Then you're going to get this piece here. A lot of people have been saying from last week how I'm breaking this down is going to be a lot easier for them, and they're going to not lose concentration. Can you let me know if you actually like these types of sew-alongs where I do take a week's break and then come back and then carry it on? Or are you one of these people that likes a full-blown tutorial? Right, okay, so I've stuck that one right next to the other one. We're going to go to the sewing machine. Okay, so I'm going to change this foot at the moment. Let me just change it. I can't remember how to change it. Pop my needle back in the middle. I'm going to use a zigzag stitch to start off with, and the reason why I'm doing a zigzag stitch is where you got the center there where the two pieces join together, we're just going to zigzag across both pieces If you have not got a zigzag stitch, you just need to do 1 row of stitches on one piece and then move over and stitch down the centre of the other one. So program 8. Okay, so I am going to reverse my stitch. And then I'm going to reverse my stitch at the end. Okay, so I'm going to lift up my needle, keep my presser foot down, and I'm going to go over to a straight stitch, drop my needle back down, twist this around and sew all the way around. So I'm using a standard stitch length of a 2.4, and I am going to reverse my stitch. Make sure my needle's down when I pivot as well. So this machine is the Janome Memory Craft 6500. I haven't used this machine in years. However, it's had to come out while the other one's away. And I normally use my HD9 as my backup, but my HD9 is on my quilting frame. That's permanently on there now, that is, on my Cutie Grace Company quilting frame. Right, so while we're here, I'm just going to swap this over. Hello. There you go. And move my needle over. Okay, the overhead camera. Right, so as you can see, I've zigzag stitched all the way down here in the centre, so basically I've gone over both pieces, and then I've stitched all the way around. I always find cutting out my fabric takes me way longer than, yes, I'm a stickler for underestimating my time for cutting out. Right, so we're going to get this so it's wrong side facing up, the outer gusset, base gusset. Haven't even printed off this pattern yet, but love watching you work. Oh, thank you. Oh, I love your YouTube channel, Be Kind Always. I love that channel name. Right, okay, so I've done right side, wrong side to wrong side. I'm just going to clip all the way around. And then I'm just going to pop this to one side because I need my walking foot on. So I'm going to go over to the next bit first and then come back to this. So we're going to pop this to one side. I'm going to zoom out now because we're moving on to some bigger pieces. Right, so we're moving on to the zip gusset. Now the zip that I'm using is the new stripy ones that we sell. I've gone for the rainbow zip, and this is a number 5. I've installed my 2 zippers, so let me just zoom it in. So I've installed my 2 zippers so they meet up together, this way, so they meet up together. This these pulls I think are from Country Cow Designs. I'm not 100% sure, but however, we sell zip pulls anyway, if you wanted to buy them from us. But I'm just telling you other places where I get my stuff from. I don't just stock my place. I like buying fabric, and I think we all do. Right, so I have stitched across the zipper on either end using a long stitch length, and I've now pulled my zip pulls to the end so they won't go any further. Okay, so I've got my actual zip gusset pieces. Now I've got 4 pieces. 2 of them I have interfaced and attached to foam and done exactly like I did before, zigzag stitched all the way around. They are super long pieces. I'm not going to get this all on camera. And I've done that for both pieces. And then for this one, I'm still using the same colour because it matches my interior of my other pieces. I've just interfaced the back. Now, as you can see, I've got joins here. So if I just zoomed in, I've got joins of interface in here. You can do that. Somebody asked me, I've only got enough interfacing to do half of one, but I can cut 2 pieces. I said you can join it as long as you are joining where it's on the lining, or if you are joining on the outer, it's got to have a heavy stabilizer attached to it, because I've got one here, you can feel my join, but because I've got the heavy stabilizer, it's fine. Now if I didn't have this heavy stabilizer on underneath, then when I come to zip up this, you will have a kink in your zipper. So just make sure that you are either doing the joining on the lining pieces, or you are doing the joining on the piece that's got the heavy stabilizer attached to it. Now, just to let you know, this is woven. This is the woven Fuse It that I sell, but in black this time. Right, so we need the zipper, the main outer, one main outer. That's one with foam. A lot of this. Okay, so on the top edge, on the right side, and that's basically where one of your zigzag lines is, we're going to run a quilter's tape along the edge. Okay, so I'm just going to run my finger along this so I know it's stuck into place. Okay, so I'm going to peel off that backing tape. I'm now going to get my zipper. My zipper is longer than this piece. So the reason why I always do this is because I can have my zip pulls hanging off, and then I'm not going to struggle when I've got it underneath my presser foot. So this zip, I'm going to flip it over so the right side of the zipper is to the right side of the fabric. Make sure I've got overhang on each end, on each small end, and match up the edges and stick it into place. Okay, so I've stuck that into place. I'm now going to get some more wash away tape and stick that on top of the wrong side, on the same side of that zipper. And I'm just going to run my finger down to make sure it's fully stuck down. Okay, I'm just going to peel off that backing tape. Okay, and now I'm going to get one of my lining pieces. So it's going to be right side facing down, so the interfacing is facing up. And we're going to stick this to this edge. Don't stretch, because I know a lot of people do tend to like to stretch. Don't stretch the fabric. Don't want to pull it either. Now I know my lining is a little bit bigger. I sometimes do this. I cut it on a fold and sometimes there might have been a crease. So my lining is bigger. I will trim that back afterwards. Okay, so we're using a zipper foot. I'm going to sew 3/8 of an inch from this edge here all the way across. I'm going to reverse my stitch at the start and at the end. And I'm going to use a stitch length 2.4. Make sure you reverse your stitch at the start and at the end. This machine is a little bit slower than my other machine, so please bear with me. I do miss my other machine. Because my lining's just moved, I'm just going to stick it back into place. Right, so I'm coming to the end. I'm not going to reverse my stitch where the lining finishes. I'm going to reverse my stitch where I feel the main outer finishes. So just going to fold this bit over so I kind of know where I'm going to stop and reverse. Because you don't want to go over that and have to cut it off. So as you can see, I folded this over because it matches up with this edge underneath, and basically I knew where to stop and reverse. Right, okay. Will your seams be different size from last week? No, because we haven't constructed the full bag. Now, Princess has made a very valid point. Now, if you are going, let me just go to the front view. Now, if you are moving, when you're quilting, for instance, making blocks, when you make blocks for a quilt, if you go from one machine to another, you will tend to find that the seams, or the 1/4 inch seam that we are using, is probably out by a few millimeters or a millimeter. Now, that can happen with bag making as well. So if you are having to move from machine to machine and you have got it as, like I have, a front and a back and the main gusset here, because I haven't made the main gusset yet, means my seams are going to match the complete bag, because it means that the seam allowance is going to be exactly the same. Because we kept the front and back flat and we haven't done the main gusset, which holds the bag together, it means that you aren't going to be out a few millimeters. Now, a few millimeters isn't much, but it is when you add it up through all the seams that you join. So if you are making a bag and you have done the gusset and you've done the back and the front of the bag, you basically need to wait for that machine to come back from the service place. That's the only thing I can say to you guys. Let me just go back. Right, so I've got my iron turned on. Let's just move you and you. So she's just warming up. Yes, I have named her. Okay, so I like to press the lining out first Doesn't matter that I'm pressing on top of the zip, that's fine by me. There's a reason why it's okay to press, because it's a nylon zip. Now if this was a plastic zip, then I would have a problem and I wouldn't be able to do this. No, you're welcome, Princess. No, it's a very valid point. Now, Princess is on my quilt course that starts in October. So I know my machine is going to be away for up to 6 weeks, they said. So I'm going to have to finish my quilt top with using this machine here, which I'm not happy about. However, I can't swap from machine to machine because obviously the quilt top will be out and the blocks will be out for me. Right, so I'm just pressing the outer. Now someone asked me what I use here. Now this is a wool pressing mat. It's not an expensive one, it's a cheap one from eBay. I used 2. I got a darker one underneath. That's my interfacing one. And then I use the top one for my pressing. But underneath these I have got a wooden board just to protect my vinyl surface of my table. Right. You will go and top stitch along this edge. If I just move this a bit, you would go along and top stitch along this edge. Now, I personally, and I omitted last week, I cannot top stitch with a zipper foot. So for years, I have had to just move on to the next step and then go back to top stitch it with the walking foot. So I'm just going to run some clips along this edge. And then we're going to attach the other side here. So I also like, let's move this iron. I also like to make sure I can open up this zipper with both zip pulls, nothing's catching underneath. That's what I like to do before I go ahead and top stitch anyway. And then I'll just pull those back. Okay, so I'm just going to pop that bit to one side and move over to the next piece. So I've got the other main outer piece with the foam attached. And then on this, this side here, I'm going to run quilter's tape. So that's double-sided tape, but that's double-sided tape which is ideal for sewing machines. Quilter's tape or wash away tape, it doesn't matter what it's called as long as you use the correct one. I've been recently asked by someone why their machine keeps getting clogged up, and I realised what they were doing. They were using normal crafting tape, and I said you need to go and get that serviced and cleaned before you go any further, because you're going to cause some damage to your sewing machine, further damage shall I say. Right, so I'm going to peel off that backing tape. Okay, and then I'm just going to grab what I've attached so far to the zipper. I'm going to flip this piece over and then stick this edge, the sticky edge, to this side of the zipper. So that's right side of this panel here to the right side of the zipper. I'm going to marry up this edge to this edge here. And stick those together. Did I read in the newspaper this morning the UK is going to get snow next week? Or was I just reading a practical joke? Oops, it's not stuck properly. Right, so I'm going to flip this over and run quilter's tape along this edge of the zipper. So that's the wrong side of the zipper now we are working on. Let's turn you down. So if you're watching this on afterwards, after the live, just type in a comment, say replay, hashtag replay, and where you're watching from. I know it's due to get colder, Joanne. You are right there. However, yeah. Right, so I know the lining is longer here, so I'm just going to peel off this backing, fold this back and make a mark of where the line, where it starts. There you go. Just so I know where to start sticking from. Okay. Okay, so right side facing down, and stick that into place. Obviously that lining was a bit long and it probably will be on this one, but we'll soon find out. You technically really meant to not have it on the fold when you cut things out, but sometimes you haven't got the space. Yeah, this one's a bit too long, so I'm gonna have to trim it back. Right, okay, so I'm gonna start sewing from here, reverse my stitch, go all the way along, and then reverse my stitch at the other end. Snow is forecast in Scotland. Oh, so I did read it right. Yeah, princess, I did read snow. Right, so using the standard stitch length, still with your zipper foot, 3/8 of an inch away from the edge, and reverse that stitch at the start and at the end. And because this lining is bigger at the end, I'm just going to fold it over like last time, and unfold it when I get close to it, and then I know where to stop sewing and reverse my stitch. That's not reversing, that's lock stitch. The stitch is in a totally different area to reverse. So, oh, that's so funny. Oops, look. Just need to cut that little bit off there. That's it. Right, okay, so we're going to press this open now completely, and then I'm going to trim back these I'm pointing over here, this overhang here and this overhang on this side, but I'm not going to do that until I've given it a good press, and I might top stitch it first. It does seem a bit early for snow in Scotland. You are right there. We desperately do need rain. You are 100% right. The UK is in meltdown at the moment. We've got ducks by us in a pond, and they have fled because there's no water in those ponds whatsoever. It's gutting really, because it was our weekend walk with the kids if we weren't doing anything that weekend. Oh, thank you. Thanks, Anne. I do like to hear that, but sometimes I always think, am I doing this right? Oh my god. And I first read that as it's chuckling it down here, not chucking it down here. Right, so if you don't know, I'm very dyslexic. So sometimes I read things quickly and I don't actually see things correctly. So I sometimes make up my own little words. Right, I'm just pressing it open completely now, and then I love this rainbow zipper. Look at this. Let me zoom in. Look at this rainbow zipper against this teal. I just love it. I just love rainbow. I love rainbow hardware. I love rainbow zippers. Now I've used a stripy zipper, but you can't really see it at the moment. Now the stripy zipper you could actually sew on the outside, just saying, if you wanted to see the stripes. Thanks, Joanne. Has anybody else got one of these irons? Because every time it goes up and down, my husband and the kids go meow because it sounds like a cat. Right, okay, so I'm just going to pop some clips to keep this open and flat. Oh, thanks, Isabel. Now, Isabel, I know you're in Spain. What's the weather like? Just to make us all feel moody. Princess is laughing. Princess and me laugh a lot, especially on Zoom. Right, okay, so just actually, Joanne, my sister's dog was round and I was pressing some fabric for an up and coming quilt course the other day, and it kept looking at me but looking around the apartment trying to find something, and now you've just said that, I actually think it was trying to find a cat. So yeah. Right, okay, so I'm just going to trim off this part here of the overhang. I'm just going to use non-fabric scissors. I explained this last week. And then I'm just going to do the same with this end. However, I'm just going to pull my zip pulls into the center. Okay, and then I'm just going to trim off this excess here. Right, so on my sewing machine, I'm going to go over to my walking foot. I'm going to base stitch across this end and this end here. And then I'm going to top stitch using the top stitch length of number 4 across this edge here and this edge here. And then we will basically, while I'm at the sewing machine, I will go round and base stitch all the way around, so I've got the base gusset all attached as one piece. I thought you were keeping that iron for quilting. No, I'm keeping it so I'm not doing starching or interfacing, Princess. No, my other iron, I just love this iron. Right, so I'm knocking my stitch length up to a stitch length 5 and changing over to my walking foot. Princess, shh. This is a chunky beast, I'm sorry. So you're going to actually just probably see a white box rather than my normal one. I think that's in. Really do think that's it. Make sure your needle's back in the centre. .5 the centre. Yep. I actually don't know what the centre is. Sorry guys. I'm gonna have to turn off my my machine and then turn it back on. Yeah, 3.5 was the centre. The centre on my other one is 4. So right, so I'm base stitching across the 2 short ends first so the zipper pull won't fall off. I'm using stitch length number 5 because I'm base stitching it. I will, where the zipper is, just go over it a few times, backs and forwards. Right, so that's that first side done. And do the other side. Reverse that stitch where the zipper is and carry on going over. Okay, so I'm now going to top stitch. I'm going to knock my stitch length down to a stitch length 4. I'm going to top stitch about 1/8 of an inch away to 1/4 of an inch away. It's whatever you're comfortable at. I'm personally like a 1/8 of an inch away. Make sure my needle's down. You don't need to reverse your stitch. And if you have to, move those zipper pulls out the way when you come to them. When you come to move your zipper pulls out the way, just make sure your needle is down. Right, we'll go. There you go. That's number 1. That's number 2. Okay, and twist it round and then do the other side. Everybody has a natural side that they like top stitching on a zip. Mine is on the left hand side. Some people like it on the right. I just like it naturally on the left hand side. But like I say, it's personal choice. Just move those zipper pulls out of the way. Now I'm going to show you something. This could happen, and it has happened on mine, which I didn't want to happen, but it has happened, and it could happen to you. Right, okay, so this is my base. As you can see, it's wider either side. That does happen. It has happened on one of the samples that I made for Sewing Street. I don't know what I do different. So just watch out your 3/8 when you actually sew on a zipper. If this does happen and you're only doing one side, pop this on that side and trim off this excess, which I'm going to do, and then I'm going to zigzag down this end here, this side here. Now if you have got 2 pieces of Velcro, you're going to have to put the zip in the center, cut off as marginal as amount as possible here and here, or you could do a going into a 45-degree angle if you wanted to, but I don't advise you to do that, to be fair. Just trim it back. Now personally, you could match, not do this part at the moment, make this part, then you can match it up, then trim off the excess, then implement your Velcro pieces on. It's only going to adjust the bag by a small amount anyway, so I'm going to probably lose about 1/2 inch. So that's fine. If it does happen, just go ahead, do this. If you are stuck, please private message me on social media or at hello@rjfmakes.gmail.com. That's my email address. So you can, and then I can take some photographs or do some drawings for you on what to do. So before I go any further, I am going to trim mine back and measure mine. Yeah, it's happened to 4 of them that I've made, but I've made about 7 of them in total, so it does happen. So yeah, half an inch. So I'm just going to draw 1/2 inch and on here and just trim it back. It's no biggie. It's not going to take much of the if you are doing 2 Velcro pieces, 2 Velcro sets, it's still going to give you a large amount to fold over, because this is where the spine will bend where we need it to bend. So if I just trim that back, get that perfectly straight. Ideally you should do this with a rotary cutter, but I don't have a cutting mat here. Right, because I have gone and cut that, I need to zigzag that. It's a must doing the zigzag. So I'm just going to go over to the sewing machine and zigzag it, and then I'm going to base stitch the whole piece together. And I wasn't meant to put this camera on. That one. Right, so I'm just going over to a zigzag. I'm just going to peel this back and just zigzag this part here. Your zigzag needs to overlap. That's where you get the squashiness that you need for when you put the binding on. Make sure it's 1/4 inch overhang. Like so. As you can see, it rolls there. That means it's squashed it down perfectly here. Now I'm going to pop the clips back on and base stitch all the way around using a stitch length number 5. So, right, going back to a straight stitch and a stitch length number 5, and we're base stitching it just under 1/4 inch all the way around. And then before I go anywhere else, I'm just taking my stitch length down to a 2.4, just so I don't forget it. Yes, in the Facebook group that Princess has just flagged up, there is actually some free patterns with some sew-alongs in there as well. Right, so we can take all the clips off this now. If you are one of those people that like to make it complete one piece, so you can go ahead and sew both of these pieces together like so, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to jump straight into the next part. Okay, so going back to a stitch seam allowance of 1/4, you're going to get your one end and your base, right side of your base to the right side of your zipper, and we're going to match up that end. And we're going to put some clips in. Okay, and then you're going to sew 1/4 inch away from this edge here. And I'm going to use a standard stitch length for that. So that's a 2.4. And you are going to reverse your stitch at the start and at the end. Taking my stitch nice and slow over that because it's quite bulky area there. Reverse my stitch at the end. Okay, so before we move over to the next joining that part to the other end, you will have 2 base bindings that's cut on the straighter grain. The base of bindings you need to fold in half, wrong sides together, and press. Then you're going to open those up, bring the 2 long edges into the center. You should have a gap around about 1/8 inch in the middle, free of the edges. You're just going to press that, and then I like to go one step further, fold that over and give that a press. Right, so, and you do that for both pieces. I'm going to open up this actual binding. Now, because I've had to trim back this base, this matches the base. Now I'm going to have to trim some off. So if you haven't had to trim off any of your base, your binding will need to sit in the middle, and you will have 1/4 inch free of binding either side. Now I need to create that for me. The reason why we got it free of binding is because of the bulky part when we come to sew it together. So I'm just cutting out a little bit of the bulk. It's not too bulky. Someone, I think it is Violet, we were having a conversation. It's not bulky if you zigzag. And Violet's done bigger bags than this anyway, so. Right, so I've trimmed off the bit that I need it to be. And then I've got 1/4 inch overhang, so let me zoom in. So I've got 1/4 of an inch free from binding on each side. So I've opened up the binding, popped that right side facing down, and I've opened up so I've got a crease here that I can see, and I've married up the edges. I'm now going to stitch on that ditch all the way across, and I'm going to reverse my stitch at the start and at the end of that binding. So that's here and here, and right in that little ditch there. Okay, so I've gone ahead and stitched from there to there and reversed my stitch. I'm now going to keep this bit folded here, bring that over, flip this over, and then I'm just going to keep that bit folded and bring that over here and pin it or clip it into place. So move that bit and this bit here. Just going to pull this little bit a bit more. It's a tight binding, we need it to be tight because we don't want it to get in the way of all the other pieces that we have to make for the bag. Okay, so using a tailor's awl, I use a tailor's awl to guide myself through the actual machine. So I put my needle down on my sewing machine, and then I pick up the binding and pull it over, so it's basically where I need it to be. Now I'm still going to sew 1/4 of an inch away from this edge here, and I'm going to top stitch along this edge, and the theory is it should go all the way through onto the other binding and should come out just next to either on the binding or just off the binding. It really doesn't matter. If you are conscious about the colour of the thread showing, swap it over to match the lining fabric. So I just use my tailor's awl to pull it over, because as it stands at the moment it's not pulled over enough. You can just see my stitching here, and I don't like that. So I'm using a stitch length 3, number 3. Pop this underneath my foot and put my needle down. Okay, I'm going to reverse my stitch at the start and at the end. I'm using my tailor awl to bring it over. You can't really see this bit where I bring it over with the tailor's awl, and I'm sorry, we are trying to work on trying to get, well, we don't know where we'll be living here much longer. That's another story. Our landlord's selling up, so that's why he won't let me put an overhead camera in on from the ceiling. He said if he wasn't selling, he would let me do it. Right, I'm going to reverse my stitch. Okay, so we have done that there, and it's nice and neat. I'm just going to get rid of any of those loose pieces of thread. Okay, and then I'm going to repeat the complete set again. Let me zoom out. There you go. So we're going to complete the same thing again. This time, right side of the base gusset over to the right side of the zip gusset, and we are going to clip that into place. I'm going to sew 1/4 inch using a stitch length 2.4, reverse my stitch at the start and at the end. While I'm at the machine, I'm going to attach this, but I'm going to trim it down just a bit. I'm going to attach this while I'm at the machine and then completely attached it. Just bear with me, I'm just going to have a drink. Woke up with a really dry sore throat. Right, okay, so 1/4 inch seam allowance, stitch length 2.4, reverse your stitch at the start and at the end. So while I'm here, I'm going to do the binding again. Make sure you got 1/4 inch overhang each side of the gusset, not the binding. And then I'm just going to stitch in the ditch. Reverse your stitch at the start and at the end. Oops. I'm going to open this up, flip this over, bring this over like so, clip it into place. We'll have to use my tailor's awl on this bit, but the tight one. Probably folded it over a little bit too much underneath. That's better. Okay, get this underneath your presser foot, put your needle down and then use your tailor's awl to guide it and help it through. And don't forget to reverse your stitch at the start and at the end. I'm going to show you something on the sewing machine that most sewing machines have, but not many people will know. This will help you if you have any issues with bulk. Now I'm going to try and zoom out. There you go, and tilt this up. Right, okay, on my sewing machine I've got a little purple knob up top. What this does is this is my feed dogs and this is my presser foot. How much the presser foot pushes down, will stop the stitches being the length that they need to be. So for instance, if you've got it at stitch length 4 and this presser foot is pressing right down on those feed dogs, it means that your stitches will probably end up looking like 2 millimeters. Now if you twizzle this, at the moment mine's set at number 3. If I twizzle it and de-increase, so that's de-increase it to say number 2, what will happen is then this will ride smoothly over the top, and then my stitch lengths will be a standard stitch length of a stitch length 4. Now if you are using PU leather or whatever, and you find your bags are gone completely bulky underneath, and you have got a pressure gauge on top, use it. That will help you. Basically, you will not get scratches in your PU leather or anything like that. Has anyone put their heating on yet? No. We are wrapping up. Right, okay, so I'm just telling you because the next bit can be a bit bulky for some people. However, if you've got that, it won't be bulky at all. I'm going to have to decrease it on this machine because my other machine does it automatically. Now, if it's digital, it will be in your digital area. You need to consult your manual. If you are struggling to find it, please message me because I can download the manual and tell you how to do it. But you just got to remember to actually put it right afterwards. Right, so I've top stitched both of those bindings. I'm now going to put this right side facing out. Okay, so we need to find the centers of each edge. So I'm going to bring these two binding pieces together, like so, and then I'm just going to snip it here within the 1/4 of an inch while it's still folded, while you try and still keep it folded. You're gonna snip the other side. While that's still folded here, you're going to pull here. But the thing is, make sure your zippers are on the side, not at the top here. You need them on the side. You're just going to pull it. And then you can cut into this. Jesus. These are the blunt ones. I don't know why I picked up these ones. Then I'm going to keep it folded, smooth it out, and do the other side. That's my house phone. Please just ignore it. I'm just going to have to answer that just in case it's my mom, guys. Right, sorry about that, guys. It wasn't my mom, it was cold calling centre. Unfortunately, we do get them. Right, okay. So I have snipped into the centres. Unfortunately, I look after my mom and dad, so I have to answer the phone whenever, and I am really sorry about that, guys. Right, okay, so front of bag. Going to get the handles and stuff them up into that pocket so they're out of the way. We're going to fold the top. We're going to fold this in half and find the center top and the center bottom. Yeah, Michael's in the same predicament. He really wants the heating on. I've said no. I've got electric heaters, which work out cheaper than our combi boiler, so they can go on. Right, so you need right side facing out of the gusset and right side of this, and we're going to do wrong side to wrong side, like so. And we're going to have the raw edge on the outside. That's because we're going to bind it anyway. So I'm matching up the bottom, cut the center first, then the top centers. Right, so I tend to run clips along this edge here to where the curve starts on both of these. So I'll just do that bit now. Now this binding is best if you point it towards the base here. And that's going to be the most bulkiest part of the bag. That's why I'm saying if your machine doesn't cope, one person actually hand stitched just a few hand stitches over that. But that's the only bit that she couldn't cope with. The rest, she was doing it on a really basic sewing machine. And she said she could cope with the rest. It was just that little binding bit. Okay, and right, so I've clipped where those corners are. I'm going to twist it around, repeat the same process at the top, making sure I grab that lining as well. Okay, so I've pegged across that end. I like to, before I go snipping into any corners, just bring a clip over here. It doesn't have to be equaled out at the moment, and I'll do it the same here. Because then I can judge by eye whether I need to clip quite a lot in the corners and or not. Oops, run away. Right, okay, so I am going to clip in the corners because I've got this bend bit here that goes on. So take those clips out. I'm going to snip just under 1/4 of an inch on those curves, but I'm doing it on the gusset. So nope, they've gone blunt. Can't have gone blunt. Am I using the right? Oh no, there you go. I'll tell you one thing, my arthritis is really out the roof in my hands and my arms today. Can't press anything properly. Right, so I'm going to do the same with this side. Okay, and now I'm going to open up so it basically gives me enough to open up to go around those corners. And do the other one. I'm glad it wasn't my mum on the phone. I'll tell you a story. I was teaching a Zoom class and my mum rang and I let it go to voice message. She was proper angry at someone. She was, and the voice, the machine kicked in, and obviously you could hear Mum's conversation. Right, okay, so I'm going to clip all the way down here. When my mum's angry about something, she is angry, and the whole world knows about it, unfortunately. I love my mum. One thing I am going to do while I'm here, I'm just going to move this zipper into the center so it doesn't get in any of my way. I'm just going to bring this a bit closer to me, just while I clip it. Yeah, she's a gem. Ever since she's had her stroke, um, she gets angry quite easy. You got to make sure this is perfect before we take it to the sewing machine. Well, Princess, you refused to have a house phone. We didn't have a house phone before Mom had a stroke. But we had to have one because the broadband that we're actually on is a really high speed one, which like Sky gives out for YouTubers and stuff. And they said you needed a house phone. Right, okay, so to make this gusset to go around this corner, I'm just going to snip it into the gusset. And then my mum won't use a mobile phone anyway, so even though she's got one. Right, okay, so I've snipped into that, which means it will go nice and neat around those curves. And then we're going to repeat the same process on this side. So going over to this side, clipping down the edge. Noisy motorbike. Now I'm coming to that other corner and I'm just going to snip into the gusset. So open up that. I'm snipping every about 1/4 of an inch away from each snip, and I am doing the main and the lining. I'm just doing the main at the moment. I'll go back and do my lining. And I'm doing 1/4 of an inch in, or just under. I'm just going to flip this over because this is quite a tight finish. So just means that you're going to get a nice finish to the bag. Right, okay, so I've done that. Yay. Right, so one thing I tend to do now is open up this gusset. It's going to help me out when it comes to going around the corners with my arthritis. You might want to do it anyway. Right, so I always start off sewing on a straight, and I mean a long straight, so I can get my rhythm in. I use a tailor's awl, and I'm using a stitch length 2.4 going down the straights. When it comes to the curves here, I will knock my stitch length down to a 2.2 or a 2. Isabel, have you ever tried staples? I haven't, but wondered. Right, so Isabel, you're in my threads gang. I use the staples on a few of my bags in threads gang. However, I won't use it on this because it's on the outside. I know the binding's going to cover it up, but I'm so scared of leaving those staples in. Now the staples do work. Staples do work, however I do prefer not to use them, because I've got a stickler of rushing things sometimes, especially if I'm making loads of samples and that, and I forget to take them out. Princess, I do have high-speed internet, but we don't need the house phone. We've got the... Oh, right, yeah. Yeah, it's just Sky said because we needed the really high fibre one. Michael sorted it out because you are in Fred's gang as well. I was having that connection problem. If anything else was being used in the house, complete meltdown. Right, okay, so I'm going to go to my sewing machine. I'm going to use a stitch length 2.4 down the straight. I'm going to reverse my stitch at the start and at the end. I'm going to use my tailor's awl, or you can use a stiletto. Take those clips as you go out, as you go around, and when you come to those curves, knock it down to a stitch length number 2. And like I say, this is going to be 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now, if you find that it gets bulky and you've got one of these on top, don't hesitate to use it. So at the moment, my presser gauge, that purple twizzly knob thing, is down to a number 3, which just means that it's pushing down at its max onto the presser bed, the feed dog bed. I can release it if I need to when I'm going past, especially when I'm going past those binding pieces. Now on my needle here is a size 16. This is where you will need a size 16 needle, guys. Take it nice and slow. Reverse that stitch. And inch by inch you can go all the way around. And having this gusset open helps me loads with the grip of my hands. With my illness, I'm numb anyway on my fingertips permanently, so I don't tend to feel my fingertips anyway. So it means that having it open means that I'm not putting any more strain on my hands or anything like that. Right, so I'm going around that corner. I'm going to knock my stitch length down to a stitch length 2. Get my tailor's awl to hold it into position when I remove a clip. Right, so I've got that bulky area here coming up. I'm going to knock my pressure down to up to a 2. And then I'm going to use an extra thing called a bulky seam aid. Now you might know it as a zip jig or a button shank. You use this to implement a button. I use it as a bulky seam aid, so when I'm going over a bulky area, I put this underneath the foot to level out my sewing foot, my presser foot, so it will go over that area. Nice and slow, 1 stitch at a time I'm doing, guys. And if you have to hand crank it, you have to hand crank it. Need to level that out again. Oops. Oops, there you go. I'm down. There you go. Oops. Right, I'm just going to have to take that out for a minute. it's done exactly what I thought it would do. So I'm going to have to hand stitch this. This machine will not cope this area. I'm going to show you how to hand stitch this bit here, but I'm just going to go past it and carry on stitching. Just reverse my stitch. Just bear with me. And turn off the machine. It's in safety mode. Thank you. That's better. Oh, I missed my machine. Right, so I'm going to that next area where it's bulky, and then I'm going to stop, reverse, and hand stitch that area. Yep, I've gone too far. Right, so I'm going past that curved area where that binding is. Oops. Oh, you're not liking this, are you? It's catching under the walking foot, that's why. Yeah. It's catching underneath that walking foot. I'm not used to this type of walking foot. You're meant to be the beast, the one that I've had a long time. Right, I'm going to have to sort this machine out. Right, okay. Becky, have you used staples? Right, okay. So what I'm going to have to do is end the live now. I'm going to come back in possibly next week and finish this. This machine is so old, I need my HD9 out. I need to get my HD9 from over there, and I can't lift it. So it isn't bulky, it's just this machine is old. I've sewn this on my 780 plus. I've sewn this bag on a lot of machines. Just this machine is not liking it. I think it's that walking foot. If I can take the walking foot off. Okay. Yeah. Any more messages? Anybody got any questions first before I go and say goodbye? No. Right, okay. Right, I'm going to apologise and say to you, I'm sorry about this. I've had so many machine problems over the last fortnight with my machine. Oh, obviously not my 780, it was just due a service. And this is why I used to have this machine, and I replaced it with the 720, but the 720 is at my parents' house. So yeah, right, so next week I will attach the gusset and the binding, and we will make the main one of the inside gusset single page things. I don't think so. Thanks for the demo. No, it's all right, Princess. And I really am sorry about this, guys. I'm going to have to get my husband to lift over the HD9 over. It's so heavy, I can't lift it. No. Right, don't forget there is 15% off everything in the shop. The code is together15. And that ends a week today. What else? I think that's it, isn't it, Princess? That's blown my mind. That really has blown my mind. Yeah, so honestly, I'm gonna just have a go. Now, if you know actually, here's a point. If you know your machine can't do bulk, what you could do is, rather than zigzag, you could trim away some of the excess foam in that area. So attach it at the 1/4 inch and then trim it back. That's another thing you could have done. It would have been a lot far easier and safer if you are using a machine that you can't adjust the thing, or it's not, if it's old like that. Oh, okay, right, okay. Yeah, e-vouchers, and the discount is excluding e-vouchers and Fred's Gang. Right, okay, thank you ever so much for joining me, and I apologise once again. Now, this is obviously, this is going to stay up, and I will be back this time next week, I promise. See you all soon. Bye.